What if the royal door didn't just close, but lock forever? That's not just a dramatic metaphor. It's the reality Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are facing right now. For years, they've flirted with the idea of independence, torn between royalty and rebellion, protocol and podcast deals. But now, something irreversible has happened. And it wasn't just the palace behind it this time, it was Downing Street too. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Because in a move almost no one saw coming, King Charles and Prime Minister Keir Starmer have allegedly aligned to permanently withdraw the very last royal title attached to the Sussex name. Quietly, legally, without spectacle, just signatures, protocol, and silence. But silence speaks volumes when it's coming from the throne. And if you're thinking, didn't they already give everything up? That's the trick. That's what they wanted you to believe. But there was one final thread tying them to the monarchy. And now, even that has been cut. Here's the part that should worry them and fascinate us. This wasn't done out of spite. It was done out of strategy. You see, for years, the monarchy has played the long game. While Harry and Meghan made headlines with tell-alls, Netflix deals, lawsuits, and awkward award shows, the palace remained quiet. Almost too quiet. Like a chess master sacrificing pawns, waiting for the perfect time to say, checkmate. And that time is now. Why now? Why this week? Why with Keir Starmer, a Labour Prime Minister, joining hands with the royal establishment, a historically apolitical entity? What could possibly unite two of the most powerful institutions in the UK in one decisive action against two people who technically left years ago? Was it a scandal? A breach? A betrayal too big to ignore? Or worse, was it something planned all along? Let's talk about what this actually means. This is more than a change on official documents. It's a shift in power. It's a rewriting of narrative. It's a statement to the world that the royal family has moved on. And has done so without Harry and Meghan in its future chapters. Gone is the Duke and Duchess title. Gone is the remaining prestige. Gone is the last thread of belonging. And gone, too, is the shield that came with it. Legal, diplomatic, even financial. Ask yourself this. If they no longer hold a title, what's to stop the full weight of royal accountability from crashing down? Because that's the question haunting Montecito right now. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we need to go back to the beginning. To the decision no one was supposed to see. To the quiet corridor in the palace and the discreet file that landed on a very specific desk at number 10. Because that's where this story truly begins. What happens when the most powerful decision in the royal family isn't announced with trumpets? No breaking news. No public statement. Not even a whisper from the palace. Just a single page. Folded, initialed, and slid across a desk at number 10, Downing Street. Because that's how this began. Not in the glare of Buckingham Palace, but behind a closed door, beneath flickering chandeliers, between two men who rarely see eye to eye. King Charles and Prime Minister Keir Starmer. An unlikely alliance forged not out of friendship, but frustration. And here's the part they didn't expect to get out. This wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It was official, legal, binding. It wasn't about a crown. It was about cutting the cord. You see, the last title Harry and Meghan held, one that gave them diplomatic weight, royal privilege, and a trace of legitimacy, wasn't stripped before because it was complicated. There were fears, political optics, public sympathy, but not anymore. So what changed? Insiders say a classified document, circulated quietly between royal advisors and parliamentary legal teams, triggered the final review. The language was chilling in its formality. Not angry, not emotional, just final. Imagine reading a sentence that ends your legacy, one line that erases your last tie to a 1,200-year-old institution. And no, this wasn't leaked through the tabloids. It wasn't whispered by disgruntled aides. It was slipped, accidentally, into the wrong briefing packet. A junior political staffer caught it. And once it hit the wrong inbox, it was only a matter of time before someone spoke. And that someone did. The fallout? Immediate. Royal courtiers scrambled. Damage control went into effect. But the truth was already out. Not to the public, yet, but to those who needed to know. Why? Because this wasn't meant to humiliate Harry and Meghan. It was meant to erase them. Erase them from the ledger. From the hierarchy. From the royal equation. Quietly. Surgically. That's why no announcement came. No ceremony. No comment. Just removal. Like they were never there. But the real twist? The palace wasn't even the one who pushed this through first. It was someone else. Someone with more to lose politically than the monarchy ever had to gain. And when you hear who lit the match, you'll understand just how deep this goes. They've survived it all, haven't they? The Oprah interview. The Netflix bombshell. The memoir that painted the palace in shadows. Each time Harry and Meghan stepped into controversy, the monarchy barely flinched. Public outrage came in waves, yes. But the crown remained silent. Unmoving. Unbothered. So why now? What made this moment, years after Megxit, years after the drama, finally push the institution to act? Because this time, it wasn't about hurt feelings. It was about something far more dangerous, irreparable damage. Let's make one thing clear. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. Not even close. Sources say this particular conversation has been brewing for over a year. Files prepared. Legal language drafted. Advisors warned. But the one thing holding it back? Optics. Every time Harry and Meghan played the victim card, a portion of the public backed them. Leave them alone. They just want peace. They're telling their truth. And so the monarchy stayed quiet. Until they couldn't. Because the last straw wasn't a headline. It was a whisper. A whisper that Meghan was planning something that would cross the final line. Something global. Something monetized. And something that would leverage the very title they were still allowed to keep. Imagine this. A new platform, rumored to be in development, centered on Duchess-level wellness, designed not just to sell products, but to rebrand the term royal for commercial gain. That was it. That was the moment when Buckingham Palace realized this wasn't a story anymore. This was a threat, not to tradition, not to popularity, but to control. Control of legacy, control of image, control of the crown itself. Keir Starmer, freshly installed in number 10, was briefed. Fast. He was told this wasn't about politics, but about protection, about national interest, about dignity on the global stage. And while some expected him to hesitate, he didn't. Because here's what many forget. Keir isn't just a politician. He's a former prosecutor. And when he sees a line being crossed, he acts. No PR spin. No public feud. Just a quiet nod and a royal directive signed into motion. So yes, Harry and Meghan have weathered storms before. But this time, the storm wasn't loud. It was silent, cold, calculated. And when a monarchy and a government finally agree on something, it's almost always too late to stop it. But the question that matters now is this. What happens when you strip away the last title, and with it, every last thread of protection? What if the true damage wasn't done in London, but across the ocean, in a quiet Montecito estate surrounded by palm trees and press silence? Because while the UK was dealing with signatures and legal formalities, Harry and Meghan were about to learn that losing a title isn't just about status. It's about survival. At first, nothing seemed different. No royal courier. No phone call from Buckingham Palace. No formal email from the Lord Chamberlain's office. Just a line quietly removed from official databases. A legal stamp here. A seal update there. But then, the ripple effects began. Calls from charities that had once proudly partnered with them were suddenly postponed. Invitations that had always arrived in advance were now still being finalized. And a certain luxury fashion house pulled out of a rumored endorsement without explanation. Why? Because without that title, they weren't just Harry and Meghan. They were Harry Windsor and Meghan Markle. No Duke, no Duchess, no Shield. And in today's world of optics and influence, those words matter more than ever. Think about it. For all their media power, much of their global relevance rested on one fragile thread, the illusion of royalty. Without it, they're just two well-known public figures competing for attention in a sea of celebrities, scandals, and headlines. But here's the part no one's talking about. This wasn't just about public perception. It was about legal positioning. Because with titles come protections. Certain diplomatic immunities. Access to private legal counsel once reserved for royals. Even behind-the-scenes influence with foreign governments and institutions. That's all gone now. And suddenly, Harry and Meghan are exposed. Not just reputationally, but legally, financially, politically. Remember that looming lawsuit from a royal biographer? Or that silent inquiry from a UK-based charity over misused donations. Those doors were once quietly closed. Now, they're wide open. And for the first time, insiders say Harry feels it. He's been described as rattled, withdrawn, and angry. But not at the palace. At himself. Because there's one conversation he never thought would happen. And it's the conversation now haunting their Montecito mansion every single night. What does life look like when the crown turns its back for good? It didn't happen with a grand announcement. No royal procession. No televised speech. Just a line crossed out, a title deleted, and a royal door locked forever. For Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, this wasn't the loss of a name. It was the loss of identity. Because no matter how many times they told the world they didn't need the monarchy, that they were free, independent, thriving, there was always that one thread left. That one quiet connection. The last royal string tethering them to history, to heritage, to protection. And now it's gone. Here's the gut punch. It wasn't taken away with malice. It was taken away with precision. King Charles didn't raise his voice. He raised a pen. Keir Starmer didn't fuel a media storm. He lit a legal fuse. And the couple that once commanded global headlines woke up to silence. Because when the monarchy moves, it doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. And in those whispers, entire legacies vanish. Ask yourself, if the institution you were born into decides you're no longer part of it, where do you go? That's the haunting reality now facing Harry and Meghan. Stripped of their final title, they're no longer royals in name or in privilege. They're not working royals. They're not senior royals. They're not even symbolic royals. They're just two people, living in a mansion, trying to matter. And that's where the emotional weight lands. Not just on legal status or social relevance, but on identity. Who is Harry without His Royal Highness? Who is Meghan without the Duchess of Sussex? What do they stand on now, if not the foundation of a centuries-old crown? And maybe most importantly, how do they survive now that the spotlight they once courted burns instead of shines? Because this wasn't just the end of a title. It was the end of a shield. With the final formality removed, so too goes the invisible wall that kept certain questions at bay. That protected reputations. That slowed lawsuits. That cautioned critics. Now, it's open season. And what makes it even more chilling? The royal family has said nothing. Not one word. As if Harry and Meghan were never there. As if their chapter had already ended. This was just the paperwork catching up. It's cold. It's calculated. And it's complete. So what's next for the Sussexes? More media? Another rebrand? A reinvention? Maybe. But there's a reason why this moment, this quiet act, matters more than any podcast, deal, or documentary ever could. Because power isn't just what you hold. It's what can be taken from you. Quietly. Finally. Entirely. And now that it's been taken, the royal story begins. Because if this was the end of their royal identity, what comes next could redefine who they are, forever.